Today's note, what we are going to cover today is, like, we'll be dealing with what's a REST API, what's a JSON. We'll see how to create a simple JSON, how to analyze JSON data via public APIs, basically the usage of Postman tool to analyze these APIs. Then we'll come from the code perspective as to how to consume this REST API via ABAP, and the concept of serialize or deserialize, and the important points that needs to be kept in mind while we are handling a REST API. But before we move on to all this thing, remember last class we got a dump and you all had asked me a question like how to pass the internal table, right? Yes or no? Remember, there was a question like how to pass the internal table instead of this database table name. Ankit and all? Okay, so the one mistake that we were doing was, this is referring to CL underscore ABAP underscore structure description, right? And when we are passing this internal table, so example, this is the internal table LT underscore ITAB, okay? But here if you see, LO underscore structure is referring to CL underscore ABAP underscore structure description. So one mistake that we were doing here and why it was giving a dump was, we were directly passing the internal table rather than we should have passed the line type of the internal table, which is the structure. So suppose we have created this, let me create a line type. So LT underscore ITAB. Okay. Now here, instead of this, I'll comment this out. So ls underscore ITAB 1. And now see this. And select from p underscore tab. Yups. So now if I put a breakpoint here, okay, and now if I do an F8, suppose SPFLI, so ls underscore ITAB 1, now if you do F6, oh, what did we do? One mistake, let me just check out once. So what did we pass? ls underscore ITAB 1, LO struct, LO tab. Let me cross check something. Just we have missed something. Okay, sorry. It is described by not name. It is described by, nobody of you guys told me it is described by data, right? Yep. Now let me trigger the breakpoint again. And now if you execute, okay. Now see here, ITAB components. And if I do an F6, can you see the ITAB components, guys? This is what we had selected here, right? If you scroll up, char ID, con ID, price currency, char ID, con ID, price currency. Ankit, is it now clear? And the others? So Ankit, I never used the p underscore tab. I showed you the other way around. Here I have not used p underscore tab at all. Whatever internal table data you get, if from that internal table you want to create any line type, and from that line type, if you want to create a table dynamically, so from there, describe by data, here it accepts the internal table. And the other thing, here I showed you by passing the work area, right? Here directly you can pass the internal table also, but one twist is that do not pass it to LO underscore struct. So if you see here, okay, let me close this. So if you see here, LO underscore tab, right? CLN underscore ABAP underscore table description. So if you pass the internal table directly here, so LO underscore tab, CL underscore ABAP underscore, after type description described by data, here you are passing the internal table. So then if you are passing the internal table, then you need to do additional one step. So then from LO underscore tab, get the table line type, and from the table line type, get the internal table components. So one additional step will be coming here after this, if you pass an internal table. So in then that case, LO underscore tab, downcast operator equal to same, then again LO underscore struct, then same downcast operator equals to LO tab, instance component selector, get table line type, and it will be done. Guys, did you get the point? If you are using an inline declare internal table, Ankit, I just told now what is the step that you need to do. Understood? Pass the internal table name here, then LO underscore, this should be assigned to LO underscore tab, and then from the get table line type, LO underscore struct, and then as you go as it is. So JS, this is the downcasting operator. I am using the classes and methods concept. So basically, if you see here, CL underscore ABAP underscore type description, example, let me open SAP GUI. So if you go from the superclass to the base classes, so if you see CL underscore ABAP underscore LO underscore struct, CL underscore ABAP underscore structure description or table description, these properties of these classes are derived from the superclasses. So if you go in that hierarchy, this will sit in the upper hierarchy, and this will come in the lower hierarchies. So from the upper to the lower. So if you see, I am trying to derive the properties of this instance object LO underscore struct from one of the superclasses. So that's why I am using the downcasting operator. Understood, JS? Just to do one thing, open this class in SAP GUI or wherever, okay? And just example CL underscore ABAP underscore table description, okay? Open this class and then go to the properties and check for the superclasses. You will find that this will come in its way. Ankit, now is it clear? Even though if it's an inline declared internal table, like here, like example in this case, it's an inline declared internal table, right? So this also you can pass. The only difference will be here you need to pass LO underscore tab, as in this particular reference to this particular class. Try it out and let me know in case if you are not able to do. And only one additional step will come. LO underscore struct downcasting operator equals to LO underscore tab get table line type. Okay. So I'll comment this part again. If you pass okay. So I thought let me just tell you this because this was the part which we were getting dumped on the last class. Okay. So let us go back to our REST APIs. So yeah, before we proceed to REST API, just a simple thing, just tell me. Example, think of a situation where we want to have a dynamic weather update across different places across the world. Okay. So what we can try to do is that we can try to build an application showing all the weather updates, right? Now, as you know that if we want to build such an application through which we want to get all the weather updates, to achieve this kind of a thing, we'll have to put weather sensors all across all the places from which we want to measure that weather, right? But if you think from an investment and the costing point of view, don't you think it is not that kind of a feasible, as it will cost a lot of amount of money, right? If we keep on putting weather sensors across multiple different places, and then we think of building a kind of a weather update application to get the weather updates from, if you see the approach that we are going to think of, this is going to cost us a lot. So what if we get a kind of a solution where we get all this data from somewhere, right? Suppose think that there are multiple web servers sitting on the cloud, which will be giving us this data based on the multiple locations that we need. And based on this dynamically generated data that we are getting from multiple of these web servers, then we can plan to build a the weather application, right? So all these different providers who will be ready to provide us this weather data, we just need to call them to get their data, right? Yes or no? Tell me. And once you get this data, the format of this representational state of data is either in JSON or XML format. And if you see this data that we are getting from these multiple different web servers which are sitting somewhere on cloud, these are kind of your REST APIs, which basically helps to transfer this data in either JSON or XML format. So what happens is that from our weather update application, we send a request and we get a response. So based on the request that we are sending, similarly, we are getting a response based on the request. And this response, the data that you get, this data is either in XML or JSON format. Now, look at just this picture and tell me which one is easily readable. Is JSON data easily readable or XML? Which one? Which one do you feel? JSON data, right? But actually, with respect to REST API, these two are the different like the data formats that we get. But as you can see, JSON is a very simple data representational format, though it is similar to XML, where we can transfer data from the client to the server and server to the client. So it's very commonly used for such kind of APIs and all. And the best part is that it is extremely lightweight to send back and forth due to its small file size. And as you are already able to see here, it's very easy to read, right? It's very easy to write. It's a neat and clean as compared to something like XML. And almost every major language has some sort of library or built-in functionality to parse this JSON data or this JSON string into objects or classes into that particular applicable programming language, which actually makes working with JSON data much more easier. And the different data types which JSON supports is basically the strings or the numbers, booleans, arrays, and the objects. Let us see through an example. Let us build a kind of a simple example to understand the different data types which actually JSON supports. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write here. Yep. So let me create a simple example. So JSON, as the name says, JavaScript object notation. Okay. So let's understand the different types that JSON supports via this demo example. So what I'm going to do, always remember our JSON data starts with either a curly braces if it's a single data, or if it's multiple data, as in like example, if you take the line items, then it will start with the third bracket. But let us take a very simple example. So within this, I'm going to write my JSON example, okay? First, I put both the curly braces. Now, what I'm going to do, so what is the object name? So let me give the object name as type, and then a colon, okay? And then let me give class ZJSON underscore example. Then double quotes and an end. Why? Because this is of string type. If you see here, strings are within double quotes, okay? Now, comma, because I want to give the second object name. What is the second object name? I'll give the second object name as val. Now, for this val, I am going to make this as a kind of a object value pair. So, object key and value, right? So, if this is an, again, inside this particular object, again, I can try to put braces to specify the object and the value name, right? Like if you see here, object key and the value, right? So similarly, again, for this particular val, I want to specify it as an object. Now here, so what is the object again inside this val I'm going to mention? I'm going to mention the ZJSON underscore example, colon, and now let me specify it as a, again as a colon braces start and braces close. Now here what I'm going to pass? Text value. Hello guys. Welcome to the world of JSON, comma, then boolean value. So for this boolean value, it's only true false. So specify true. Then let me specify an integer value. So for this integer value, if you see, integer value supports only numbers. So 1024 suppose. Then a negative integer value. Then a null value. So JSON supports a null value as well. So if you see, for null value, the value that you need to pass is just null. And now what we'll be trying is now structured values, right? It's like key and value. So now inside this, let me pass this. So now here, let me pass field 1 as value 1, field 2 as value 2. Okay. Now it's already closed now here. So after this, now this is the closure for this one. Now after this, let me pass our table lines. And what did I say for a table line? What will be the braces? Third bracket, right? Now here, let me again put inside this another structure here and another structure here. Okay. Now here, inside this, let me put line 1, 1, and value as test 1. And so whenever a particular table line within the third bracket, if any line ends, put a comma. Then after that, it's a new line. So within the new line, let me put the same value, but let me change the numbers. So here line 2 as 2 and value as test 2. Okay. Now let me process this. Can you see an error coming? Can you see an error coming? Why is this error coming? Can any one of you tell me why is this error coming? Anyone? What is the mistake that I did that this error is coming? Even if you see here, can you see expecting comma or a curly braces, not string? So if you see here, all the components are separated by a comma, right? Until and unless you specify it as an object value pair. Example, if you see, when this particular at the start, right? Open up braces, object, the value, object, and then the value, right? So inside this again, object and then the value. Now here, after null value, I have given structured values. But after structured values where it ends, have I given a comma? No, right? So if I give a comma now, and now if I process, can you see this? So if I maximize this, can you see this, guys? Guys, are you able to understand the example of the different data types which JSON supports? And why this is important is, in terms of when you want to post some data to API, okay? When you want to post some data to API, it needs to be carefully understood that what are the different data types that JSON supports. So that like if you're trying to pass a number or trying to pass a string or trying to pass a null value or trying to pass a boolean value, or if you're trying to pass the data in the format of structures, like example header data and then the multiple line items data, right? So example PO header data, all the field values, okay? Then the PO header line item data, the PO line item data. Then in the lines, all suppose it has got 2 line items. So here if you see, all the lines will come within the start of the third bracket and within the close of the third bracket. But all the lines will come like this. So suppose if there are 10 lines, we'll be able to see 10 such entries. So remember, if you see this symbol, that means it's a table line, then consisting of as many number of lines which are there. But if you see this symbol, then it's just a structure, right? So in this structure, what were the 2 major components, guys? So if I just minimize like this, in this structure, what are the 2 major components? It's only 2 values, right? Type and val. Now again, if I minimize this, so for type, this is the value. For val, again, it's a structured object type, right? Again, it's a structured object type, yes or no? And if I maximize this again, if you see this again this particular structure has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 objects, right? And the corresponding values for the same here, where one is a structured object, one is the table lines, right? So these are the different object types basically which JSON supports, and this is important to understand while even you are getting data and also while you are trying to send the data. Guys, up to this point, any doubts? Is it clear up to this point? Is this example clear? Like why I did this example, just to make you understand the different kind of object types that JSON supports and how to build a structure, table lines, everything with it. Okay. Similarly, even in your Chrome browser also you can go ahead and create a JSON data. As to how? So if you go here, if you go to the developer tools, here go to the console, clear the console. So let me just close this. So if you see, if you use this console here, an example, if you just write this below line of code. 1 second. So if you go here, write this below line of code, and if you put this here, see, if I just click on enter now, and now if I start typing companies, okay, can you see here 2 entries coming? Now companies, the first entry, if I type here, can you see the name? Now suppose companies 1 dot name. Can you see? Now suppose if I change this name to smallest now if I recall this array again, so can you see now the change coming? So in this way you can use your developer console also here to play around with the JSON data. So there are multiple ways to do that. Either you can use your developer console here, or as we were using your, this is one of the site, jsonformatter.curiousconcept.com. Here also you can play around. And so there are multiple ways through which you can try to play around, to play with the JSON data if you want to analyze the same or create a kind of a sample JSON data. And here I have specified the sites also. Now with respect to analyzing the data that you get from JSON, so example, if you, let us take any public API now. So let me take the one of the public API here as example, yeah, OMDB API. So I've taken a kind of a movie-based free API. So here, if you see in this omdbapi.com, can you see this send all data requests to http www.amdb.com, amdbapi.com API key, right? Just for saving time, I have got the API key. In case if you want to get the API key, you just need to click here and you will be getting your API key. So now, if I use this, so if you scroll down, and now suppose I want the movie name with Thor. Let me click on search. So let me take this. Let me try to put it here. Okay, I have not. So can you see here I'm getting an unauthorized, that I have not provided any API key and I'm getting an error. So let me try to provide the API key. And now in the API key, here I will provide the API key as a C15FCEB. But I am getting an incorrect AMDP ID. Just let me check here. Okay. So we are not getting any responses. Just let me check once. Okay. Not an issue. If you are not getting any responses from here, no, not the key is not wrong. Can you see here? It is showing me that I am passing an incorrect IMDb ID. Not an issue. So if you see this API, it clearly tells that if you see these parameters by ID or title, right? So it clearly tells that either you need to pass a valid IMDb ID or you need to pass a movie title to search for. But if you see this particular API that I'm providing here in this URL, are you seeing any either movie title or any IMDb ID? If you read this, while both I and T are optional, at least one argument is required. But am I passing any one of them? No, right? Understood now? So to rectify this, what I'm going to do, let us pass this particular movie title T. So here, after this, ampersand T equals to, yups, now I got it. Can you see? Now I got the data. Here guys, can you see here? I just read this documentation. It is telling me that you need to pass any of these parameters to get the response. Now, quickly, first of all, tell me guys, this data what you are seeing here, is it really looking good and you can easily read? No, right? Just take this data, go to this site jsonviewer.stack.hu, put it here and go to the viewer. Now tell me, this JSON data is a single data, right? Not multiple lines of data, yes or no? Now here, if you expand it, can you see this ratings is an internal table? And now Ankit, are you able to understand that why did I invest time in making you understand this one? Because so that you can understand this easily. If you just see this kind of a data, or if you just see this kind of a data, you know what does this imply or what does this imply, or what are the different string values or numeric values, or what are the different, or if there is any null or whatever to understand, or if it's a Boolean value, to understand the different object types associated with the JSON data that you will be analyzing while using an API, and that was the reason behind me to make you understand that. So if you see this response which you got from calling this API, and this is the particular response. So this has got multiple components here, and one of the components is a kind of a table line entries where it has got 3 entries, and these are again the components of the same, right? So this is what I'm calling from here. But what if I want to call the same from Postman? What if I want to call the same from Postman? So Postman is a kind of a utility to play around with these APIs. So let's now jump on to Postman. So here this is my Postman. So once you open Postman, you will be getting a screen like this, right? Nothing to do, just go here, take this URL. Now, let me not pass all these. So if I just pass this, what is going to happen? Can you see this? I'm getting a okay response, but I'm not getting anything out of it, right? So now I want to pass the API key as I was passing here, right? Now tell me one thing, this API key and this particular the movie title that we are trying to search for, these we are passing as a point of the parameters of the API, right? So here, go to the parameters tab and pass the API key value. So here, now pass the API key value as the corresponding value that we passed there. So what is the value that we passed there? It was this particular value. I'll take it from here and I'll pass it here. So if I pass it here, can you see automatically this one also coming, right? After this one, what was the other thing that I passed? I passed the movie title, right? So here the parameter is T, and the value is Thor. Now if I click on the same, can you see here? Now suppose if I don't pass this API key, what is going to happen? Can you see 401 unauthorized? No API key provided. The same what you are getting in the browser, the same response and the error message you will be getting here also. Now if I pass the API key, if I do not pass this, can you see this incorrect IMDb ID? Though it is passing a 200, but it is telling me a response that the response is false because I have not passed any parameter with respect to either IMDb ID or the movie name. So if I pass this, I get this particular value. Now, guys, tell me one thing. Here, if you see, I am passing the API key value here. Think that you always need to use the same API key again and again, okay? Or maybe the other way around, this API key you are getting from some particular table or from some source, okay? And this API key you do not want to keep it here, you want to reuse again and again. What you can do, you can save this as a kind of a global variable. How? Click here. Can you see here? Environment. Once you click on environment, or 1 second. Yeah, from here also you can go. So either from environment or from here. Can you see globals? Or environment, can you see globals? Click on these globals. Now, what is the variable name? API key, right? For this API key, I wanted to set a value. So API key, and you do not want to show the value, keep it as a secret. What is the initial value? I'll take this as the initial value. I'll put it here. I'll put it in the current value also. So, now just to cross check both of this, and I save it and done. Okay. Now close this and now click here. Now come here. Now for this API key, let me put one more. So suppose see here, API key. Okay. Now to use the same global environment variable which we just created now, open double braces. Can you see the global environment variable coming? Select this and done. Now here you are not able to see the value, right? Will this work or will this not work? Guys, tell me. Will this work or will this not work? Yes, it shall work, because though I am passing it as a global environmental variable, but the value still remains the same. So why it will not work? It will work. So if I click on a send again, you are getting the response back. If you convert this to a JSON format, you will get in the data in the JSON format. If you convert this to an XML format, and this is in the JSON format. Now, here I was converting to JSON or XML based on the body response, right? What if I want to get the response directly rather than me changing the body response to any of the format? What if I want to get the same in either XML or JSON? So if you see here, the documentation of the same, here they've clearly mentioned this particular line, R as a data type to return JSON or XML. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put one more parameter R and the value as XML. Now see the magic. If I click here, can you see the data coming in XML format? And if I pass JSON, now the data coming in JSON format, right? Do you see the change? When I put an XML here, now see, this is not that easy to read, right? Now you can see from here also, guys. And if I put JSON, how it becomes very easy to read, right? Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? Okay. So now that you saw, basically, let me take one more example of an API here. I'll take this API. And if I put this here, let me put this with an HTTPS. Take this data again. Now this is another different form of data that I'm going to show you here. Go here, clear it out, put it here, remove white spaces. Can you see this now, Ankit and others? Guys, can you see this? The one which you are getting a response here, this was a single data, but the one which you are getting a response here, can you see multiple data? So Harish, for getting the API key, nothing. Can you see here API key? Go here, just pass your email ID and you will get the key. Understood? Got the point, Harish? Okay. So now coming back. So initial one form of data which I showed you was a plain structure having a single data, right? Now if you see this here, this JSON, so why it is very important to understand, by seeing the output only you should understand that the data that I'll be getting, whether it will be having multiple lines of data or it will be having a single record of data. So if you get data from this kind of an API, this data is going to give you, by seeing here only you can see that this is an internal table kind of a format. If you collate it to an ABAP data format, right? So it will consist of multiple lines, and a particular line has again got these multiple components, and this address is again a deep structure. Then again this geography is a deep structure. Similarly for company also. So this has got a structure, but here there is no table types, all are structures. But this has got multiple internal table lines. Now let me show you one other case. Yups. Now coming to that, you are using the Postman here. So if you see here, when I was using this particular API to get the data from here, if you see in the authorization, there is no authorization I am passing. The only thing that I am passing to get the data in terms of any, that's an API key which I am passing, because without this API key, it is not giving me any response, right? But if I take a scenario, I'll just take a service which we have created in our system. If you call this service, tell me one thing, if I just call this service like this, if I just call this OData service just like this, will I get any response? Yes or no? Will I get any response, guys? Yes or no? Why, Harish? Why won't I get any response? Because it will give me an error that 401 unauthorized, right? So here, what do? Here we go for the basic authentication. Here also I have used a environment variable. So if you see here, this is the environment variable. Either you can use a global variable also, or you can use an environment variable also. In the same way, here you can go ahead and create an environment variable. So now here I've given the username, here I've given the password, and now if I click on send, can you see the response coming? Can you see the data coming? So the thing to note here is, if you go to the header, if you go to this auto-generated headers, can you see the authorization getting generated with your basic and all? So with the basic and then the encrypted value with the combination of your username and password. So this is your basic authentication. But most of the APIs will not work with this basic authentication. It will be very rare. Most of them will be on the OAuth concept, which is kind of the bearer token concept, which they will refer to get the data. So now for understanding this bearer token, I have taken one more free API, which is this gorest.co.in. So now first let us call this API. So let us call, let us open a new tab here. Let us put this. Cool. I'm getting the user details. Okay. Now what they are telling is, if you scroll down, that for getting the user details, in case now if I want to read as per any page, So let me add a parameter. Suppose page equals to 1. So now I am able to see only for page equals to 1. Suppose page equals to 5. Now I am able to see the output only for page equals to 5. Similarly, if I want to see for a single user only, suppose I want to see for this user 4197. So users, what is the way they have given? Slash and 4197. So if I pass this, can you see I am getting a single data. Now what they are telling, if I want to update this user details, so for this, suppose from get, I want to do a put, if I want to update these user details, okay. So guys, if I just click on send here, so for update, I need to pass a body also, right? So go to the body, go to the raw format, go to the JSON format, pass it here, and now beautify, and now let us try to make it active, okay. So now if I just click on send, what is going to happen? Unauthorized. Why? Because if you see here, it is clearly telling that for these request methods such as put, post, patch or delete, we need to pass a access token which needs to be passed as a bearer token. So how do we pass the bearer token now? One way is go to the authentication, go to this bearer token, and I have already saved this token. How to get this token? So if you go here, click here to get your access token. So automatically a screen comes like this and you will get your access token, which the same thing I have put here. Okay. Now this particular access token, you go here, you put this in your token here, and now if I try to click on send, what will happen? Can you see this? This became active with this response. Guys, did you understand? So if I create this as a bearer token, and now can you see here the authorization coming? Bearer keyword and then the whatever is the access token. Bearer keyword with a space and the access token. So guys, tell me one thing. If I do not pass it from here, if I do not pass it here, okay. So if I make it no authentication, and here if I add a header as bearer token, will it work? Yes or no? Guys, tell me. So example, if I take for 4198, do a get call, okay, and here now I don't need a no authentication. So here also this is inactive, right? I use this, go to the body, I use this value, again I try to make this as active, okay. Now instead of passing here as no authentication, here I pass, so what is that I need to pass? So if I make it as a bearer token, so I need to pass it as a kind of an authorization, right? So I'll pass it as a no authorization, I go to here, and here I pass as authorization, okay, and here bearer, and then space, and then use this value. So now if I click on send, what is going to happen, guys? Can you see this? Did anything happen? So guys, see here, nothing happened, right? The error did not come because I have taken care of this one, but it did not pass. Now, if I inherit authentication from, inherit authentication from parent, okay. Now if I click on send here, nothing, right? Now go here, make it as a bearer token, and this is obviously a duplicate header and this will be overridden by the authorization header. Now here, if you click on send and done. So guys, why it did not happen? Ankit, did you observe? Why it did not happen? Again, I'll make it no authentication. Ankit, tell me why it did not happen. I am using a get call here. I should do a put call, right? I was doing a get call. Now if I click on send, guys, done. Guys, done. So remember that even if you pass no authentication here, header, this is the main concept which is doing the magic for you. This is the main concept. Either you generate this from here or you do this from here. And why I am stressing on this, you will understand, because when you are calling the API from the code perspective, you will not be getting these options. You need to pass all these as the key value pair for setting the header values. And there, then you need to pass authorization as the key and bearer along with the combination of the bearer key as the value. And that is the reason why I am trying to make you understand this point. Now, what is the other point? If I go here and instead of this, I remove this. Let me call another user 4199. Let me call on get. Click on send. Let her make inactive. So let us go to body. Now what I'm going to do here, go to parameter. Here pass access hyphen token and here pass the value and put it here. Okay. And now here make it no authorization. Here I have disabled the same. So guys, will this work? Guys, will this work? Yes or no? Will this become inactive? Let me click on send. Can you see 404 not found? So let us try to take any other user, get. Let us remove the access token. Let me call the API to get any user. Raw. Yep. So 4283. Okay. So 4283. Go to the body, raw, beautify it a bit, inactive. Now let us pass the access token, no authorization, body is there, click on put and send. Can you see this? It became inactive. What I did not pass it as an authentication. I did not pass it as a header. I just pass it as a parameter. So even if you pass it as a parameter here, with this access token, this will also work. Similarly here, what you can go, edit, here pass access, here pass a bearer token, and here pass the value. I'll go here, I'll take this value, I'll pass it here, similarly I'll pass it here and save it. And now instead of here, you can use the global environment variable also. And if you want to update something, see here. So you can use this concept also here while you are trying to play around with Postman. How to get the access token I just told now. If see here, click here, automatically this will come up. If I close this, now just click on Google, whatever account. So this is in incognito mode. I already got the details for you. Now once you click on Google, it will take your Google account or whatever through which you want to validate, and you will get your access token. Understood, JS? Logically, in your APIs, the access token will be coming to you from another API call. Understand that. If you are dealing with APIs, and most of the APIs will have an authentication mechanism via access token, that is using the concept of bearer token. This will be heavily used, and this access token you will be getting from another API through which you will be getting this access token, then which you need to combine with a keyword called bearer and space, and here the this particular whatever token you will get, and this you need to pass it as a kind of a header, as we just saw now with the authentication. Understood, guys? Logically, in your cases, this token you will be getting from another API call. Do a get call, you will get the token. Sometimes what will happen, while doing that get call or doing a post call to get the token, you need to pass some authentication credentials. It may be. So then in that case, you need to get the credentials, or if you just get the token by hitting an API, you need to get the API and then pass with the same concept that we understood just now. Yes, Harish, token will be assigned at runtime. Because do you think that token will always be the same, Harish? This token, what I got now, this will differ if you call it after 3 or 4 days, right? Yes or no, Harish? In some cases, the token varies in each and every call. Every call, the token is dynamic. It needs to be generated, it needs to be generated a fresh token so that it can help you to authenticate. And Ankit, the answer to your question is, here in terms of your postman, what I'm doing is nothing. I'm just using this environment variables which I've created here. This is applicable only for postman. Just from a fun and a learning point of view, I just explained you how to call a normal do get call, how to do a get call with a basic authentication, how to do a normal get call and then a put or a post or a patch or a delete call with respect to your access token. And here also the access token you can pass either directly from the header or from the authorization as a bearer token or from the parameter with an access token. Similarly here also this API key which you are providing, right? If I do not provide this API key here, if I go here, if I use this, and here it will ask for an API key. So example, API key, and here if I pass this, can you see this add to header or add to query parameter? If you add to query parameter, can you see here again one more API key coming? And now if you call the same, so once I add to query parameter, if you use this, see here, this is also another way. You can add to API key also from here also. But rather than doing this, what I normally do is, I directly go and pass this API key parameter here. But here, with respect to authentication mechanism, with respect to the bearer token, this is the most important concept which you need to understand. Because if I do not pass here, how it will work? You need to create this entry. If you pass here, automatically it will be an auto-generated header, as I just showed you, right? But what if I do not pass? How do you pass it? And also the other way, it supports this OAuth access token mechanism where you need to pass access hyphen token. Remember, if you do not pass this access hyphen token, example, I'll just remove this. Can you see here resource not found? So you need to pass access hyphen token. Understood, Ankit? So the one who asked me that question, API uses proxy from SAP, I did not understand that question. Okay. Should we have a 2-3 minutes of break? Then we'll jump onto the code concept, how to write the code to get the data and we'll be using this API, this OMDB API. And I'll show you some complications also what will come when we will be using these other APIs. How do we create API from SAP? Either you can create from an OData service, or there are certain classes through which you can create an API also, but normally the preferred is the OData services. Your OData is also a form of a REST API. Understood? Okay, so guys, can we have a 2 to 3 minutes of break? Yes. Let's connect at 8:35. Guys, can we start? Harish, is the SAP server down or what? Hello? Am I audible, guys? Is the SAP server down? Like Harish is asking a question. let's move ahead. We'll see to that later. Okay, thanks Loganathan. So now, consumption of this REST API via ABAP. So how we are going to do that? So for accessing this API on our S/4HANA on-prem systems, basically there are a few steps that you need to do. Okay, so these are the steps that you need to basically do to get the response from the API to onto our ABAP on-prem systems. First step is that you need to create an HTTP client object, and for this step, either we can call the URL of the API directly, or in case if your basis team has already created a destination for you and they will create that in SM59 and they will set up the certificate trust via the S-Trust T code, then you can call via using the destination also. Once you have created an HTTP client object, what you need to do, you obviously need to make a request to get the data, right? So the next step will be making a request. Once you have made a request, you need to ask for a response. Once you ask for a response, if the response is successful, you will get the data. Now, step 5 is not that kind of a mandatory with respect to getting the data, but why I have added this step is because if you have got the data successfully to initially to just to play around, just display the data and see what is the data that is coming around, and then parse this data from JSON to internal table or XML to internal table. Now let's see the same from our code perspective. So the API that we will be using is this particular API, omdb.api.com. So let me pass this, let me remove this, let me call this API, okay, and I'll call it from here. Yes, Loganathan, but it depends on the architecture that you are using with respect to eliminating the middleware layers. It depends. Like if you see any cloud integration, the cloud solutions integration that you are doing with your on-prem system, most of them have APIs. But with respect to the earlier solution that we used to propose, whether by using proxies or by using web services or by using iDocs, so if those cases are also there, then you may plan to convert them from those to your OData services or such use cases in the future. But in some cases you will feel that like if APIs are not available, then obviously those middlewares will still come into picture. So it depends. If the APIs are available, then obviously you can go ahead with this one. With respect to any application from where you want to get data, if those already have ready-made available APIs, then it's really fine and good that you can go ahead and call these APIs and get the data directly and remove the dependencies of the middleware. Okay, so what I was doing here is, okay, yeah, now here, this is the, so what is our requirement? First, let's understand the requirement, what we are trying to do today. So from this API, let me call the JSON viewer again. So I'll pass this. Okay. So understand, my requirement is that, first let me create the problematic question statement for you. This is the API from which you will be getting data. My requirement is that I need the title, I need the year, I need the rated, I need the released, I need the runtime, then I need the language, ratings, IMDb rating, IMDb votes. I need only these components from this API and I want to pull onto my on-prem system. This is the plain basic requirement. Guys, getting the point? Guys, did you understand? So, how do we start? So first of all, let us first try to do this first 5 steps. First, second, third, fourth and fifth. Then we'll come to the 6th step. Okay. So first of all, data LV underscore URL. Type string. Now what is the step 1 did I say you? So step 1 is creation of an HTTP client object, right? By using the class CL underscore HTTP underscore client. We will be directly passing create by URL. This is what I was talking about, create by destination. If you have a SM59 destination, but we will be using this create by URL. Now here I'll be passing this URL as LV underscore URL. Now very important thing, if your on-prem systems while trying to connect to the APIs do encounter some kind of firewall or something, then do connect with your base system and ask them the proxy host and the proxy services in case if any proxies are applicable which needs to be passed while trying to connect to any of these systems externally while trying to fetch data from any of the APIs. Otherwise, this will not come into picture. Now, after that, now importing, let me import. So this is instance hello underscore HTTP, and let me keep the arguments as it is. This will come handy if required. So here, if size sub RC not equals to 0, then don't do anything. If the client instance creation is successful, I want to proceed ahead with all the remaining other steps. So after step 1, what was the step 2? Make a request, right? Step 2 is making a request. So for this step 2, now for making the request, what I'm going to do? We need to do a send, right? So we need to make a request as send, right? So now what we do? Hello underscore HTTP send. Now from this send, in case if there is any timeout and in case if there is any exceptions, and this timeout I'm going to give as 15 seconds. Okay. Now step 2 done. Now ask for a response. So for asking for a response, hello underscore HTTP and now receive. So make a request. We have sent the request, now receive. Now from here, okay. Once you have asked for the response, then get data. So now for getting the data, LV underscore result equals to hello underscore HTTP, then use response, and from this response get C data. Okay. Now, once you have got this data, then let's display the data and see if we are really getting data or not. So, step 5. This was step 4. So, CL underscore ABAP browser, and here show underscore HTML, and here we are just going to pass the title as movie API demo, and in the HTML string I'll pass and rest I'll delete. Okay, so let's do, what do we do now? Let's put a breakpoint. Okay, let me activate the code. Cool. Let us do an F. So I've passed the URL also. Okay, I've not passed the URL. So let me pass the URL value lv underscore URL equals to let us take this value from here and within the quotes let's pass this. Okay. Now let us do an F8. Okay, so create by URL. So let us keep a close check on size of RC. If any step goes wrong, then first creation of HTTP client object is successful. Okay, now make a request. Request is successful. Then get the, once you have done the request, what was the next step? Then ask for the response. So here I got an error. Why? Here I got an error, as this is the problem sometimes with these APIs, that this system stops misbehaving. So I got a communication failure here. And since I got in communication failure, obviously it will not show me any output. It will show me this kind of an issue. 500 SSL peer certificate untrusted. Can you see this? Guys, can you see this? So this is one of a very known issue which comes when you call an API. This comes because if the certificate trust is not established, okay. So what basis team will do is that basis team will import all the certificates with respect to the API. They will connect with that concerned API teams, will get all the certificate details. They will install and put all the certificates so that our system is successfully able to communicate with their system to get the data. Now let's try one thing. Let me check whether did I pass an HTTPS or did I pass an HTTP. So let me remove the HTTPS now, guys. And now let's try again. Should we give it a try again, guys? Did you understand the one sample of it? Why did I show you HTTPS? Now let me show you through HTTP. So now SPFLI. Now let's do the same steps again. Carefully observe size sub RC value. Guys, can you see here? Now size sub RC is 0. Here it has been able to go through. Yes or no? Now if I do an F5, if I do an F6 and if I do an F8, guys, can you see the output coming? Yes or no? The same output on your on-prem system, what you were getting data here, right? So now up to my fifth step is successful. But before I proceed, one quick question. So now did you see that when I got an error, that error I came to know when I got that output, right? If I do not print that output, how will you get to know that there an error has come? So example, if I comment this out, okay, and activate, now here I'll uncomment this, and just to make life simple, let it be, not an issue. So let me do F8. Okay. So guys, can you see here? Though at that time, if I pass here HTTPS now, sorry, and now if I do an F8, and if I pass, can you see that error is not coming, right? I'm not able to see that error. How do I know that whether an error came or anything came? How do I know? Right? In that case, what you do, so the problem comes here. Once you ask for response, if the connection is not successful, you are not going to get any response, right? So receive, here you add a piece of a code. So here, what you do is, hello_HTTP, there is a method called get last error. And here, message class and message number you ignore. For code and message, here you pass data LV_sub RC, and here you pass data LV_error text if any. Okay, and after that just write error occurred, and after that write LV error text with the return code as so let me so now if I do an F8, now I passed HTTPS, okay, and now if I execute, can you see this? SSL handshake with this particular API failed, and the SSL peer certificate untrusted issue is coming with the return code at 421. The same message, I have captured it via this way. So if you are getting any issue while trying to get a response in the backend call, so you are sending for a request, you are getting a response. In case if you are getting any issue in the response, you can use this concept to catch that. Okay, so now let's go back to the proper scenario. Now here I'll activate. So now what was our requirement? So this is the JSON format data. My requirement is that once I have got the data, what are the data that I need from this API? From this API, I need the data of title, year, rated, released, runtime, language, ratings, IMDb rating, and IMDb votes. This is what I need. Okay, now quickly jump onto here and tell me. So any one of you please tell me, now that I've got the data here, okay. So this was the step 5 where I was showing the HTML data. Now example, obviously I will not show the HTML data just like that. Now I need to use that data with respect to the ABAP format, and I want to go ahead with the further with my requirement, right? So basically to convert or to parse the data from this JSON to your ABAP format, you have an important class called UI2/CL_JSON deserialize. We convert the JSON to either an internal table or structure by making use of this class and method. Similarly, the other way around, if you want to convert from ABAP to JSON, you just need to use the opposite of the same called the serialize. Okay, but now our use case is JSON to ABAP, right? So what I'm going to do now is, if you use that class method to convert the data from JSON to your ABAP format. So /UI2/CL_JSON and now deserialize. Now here where is my JSON data? LV_result. Okay, this JSON X is not required, since I want the pretty printer format to work on, because if you see the data which you're getting, this is in pretty printer format, like particularly well formatted, right? And also this is in camel case format also. If you see here, small starts with small, then capital, starts with small, then capital, starts with small, then capital. So camel case is also there. So what I'm going to do is /UI2 CL JSON, then pretty mode, and pretty mode, then camel case, and these all are not required. Now here data, here this data that you need, here this is very important. So anyone tell me, how do you plan to map this JSON data to this data? Will you declare, what is one of the steps? You can declare all the components of the structure and map it to a table type which is having all these components, and refer it to a data type to the table type and map to this data type. Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? Tell me, guys, yes or no? Can I do that? So I will begin of whatever table type, give all the component names, right? Then data type type that particular table type and then map it here, right? But what if I do not do like that? So I'm going to do smart mapping. Why smart mapping? I'll be doing smart declaration of the data only that I need. So let us start now. Let's go here. So types, begin of so TY movie data. So what is that we needed? We needed title, year, rated release, runtime. So title, type, all the type will be string, right? Title, year, type string, rated type string, type string, type string, then language ratings, type string, type string, and IMDb rating and IMDb votes. Now for this, I'll use an underscore because I'm using a camel case. So type string and IMDb votes type string. Okay, and end of TY underscore movie underscore data. And now so let me close this. Now here ls underscore type ty underscore movie underscore data. So if I map to this, okay, fine. So let me put a breakpoint here directly, and so if I execute now ls move data, okay, so if I do, and guys, in F6 now ls move data, what is that you're expecting? Can you see title came as it is, year came as it is, rated came as it is, released came as it is, runtime also came as it is, language also came as it is. The problem is with ratings. Guys, why did the ratings did not come? Why did the rating did not come? And second thing, if you see here, this ratings is a table, but what we have declared is type string. So obviously it will not be able to map. Second thing, can you see here IMDb underscore rating and IMDb underscore votes? But if you see the API, camel case IMDb rating, camel case IMDb votes. So let me do an F8. Example, I have not given like this. I had not given like this. What will happen? Any issue? Will any issue come? So let me show you here. So now let me ls movie data. Still that will come. Can you see? So it's not that I have to give in camel case only. Sorry, I have to give it in that underscore only to map. It will map. But why it becomes useful? You will understand when I do the reverse of it. When you do the reverse of it, as in serialize, if you do not create your variables in that way and you want to post data, so this API understands this particular component of this is in camel case, so this API will understand this particular component in camel case only, right? Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? Can I pass it just like this, like how countries can I make it IMDb rating? It will not understand, right? This is in camel case only, right? So in that case, that is the reason why I was showing you that concept. So now let us come back again and close this. So let me make it as this again. And now coming to this part. So for this part now, what are we going to do? So here, this particular ratings, right? This particular ratings is a table of. So what table of? So again, let me begin of ty underscore rating, end of ty underscore rating, and here, what are the different component names? Source and value. So source, And now for this ratings, type standard table of with empty key, right? And now if I activate the same, and now if we check the output of the same, so guys, will I now get all my values? Will I now get all my values, guys? So if I do an F6, here I do get all my values now. Guys, did you understand? Now my next part of the requirement is that now from this particular data which I have got, okay, I want to build an internal table which will have title, which will have the released date, which will have the runtime, which will have the movie rating, and movie rating will come from that particular source and value which is having the IMDb rating, Internet Movie Database, and this particular rating. Once I have the data, I want to convert it into a JSON format. I want to do the reverse now from ABAP to JSON. Okay? So now let me do an F8. So, okay. What are the components did I say you? Let's first create the declaration of the same. So now here what I'm going to do? End of TY movie data. Let me do another begin of the final output that I need. Output. And now here title type string, release date type string, runtime type string, movie rating as type string, and rating source as type string. Type standard table of TY underscore move underscore output with empty key. Okay, this is the final that I need. So now what we will be doing here is, this is where I got my output, right? ls underscore move underscore data. So now data lt underscore mov underscore, or let me create it like this. Value operator tt underscore final mov, and then now we'll create the components. So now guys, you tell me, how do I start? I need to read data from this work area, the table type ratings, to check where the source consists of that string word internet, right? And then build the final internal table. So can I do like this? For in then ratings, right? Can I do index into IDX where source content string internet, right? And after this, can I make use of auxiliary variable let where equals to ls underscore mov underscore data ratings to read that particular line index value index. Okay, and now in what? In the component names, right? So the first component name is title. So title is going to come from title, then your release date, released, then your runtime. So runtime will be coming from this var, right? I have used already an auxiliary variable, or sorry, runtime I can get from then movie rating, this I will get from var and value and rating source var and source. Yes or no, guys? Is this fine? Can you see I used for expression, index into IDX, so that goes into that particular index value based on this where condition only, and I pick up that particular line type, line data only from that particular table type based on this index position, and use the same rather than reading this 2 times to get the value. Use this to capture the values and use this as the different components to map the values, right? Now here, after this we are going to, so now we are going to use the same class again. So serialize and now here in the data, let us directly try to pass the first, because it will have only a single record. And now for compress ABAP true and pretty name same this particular value. So these 3 parameters. Now close this and now let's write cl underscore demo underscore output display JSON, and here okay, I could have used this one way out. Data because it's a receiving parameter. No, here if you see this class, here if you see this class, here if I scroll down, this is the returning parameter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to map this to this particular value. So here yeps, and now here so now let's put a breakpoint. Rather than here, let's put a breakpoint here, and now let's do an F8. Okay, so LT final movie. So let me do an F6. So here can we see all this data coming, and here also LS. So only that data came where I gave the source contains internet, contains string internet, right? So only that data came, right? Now let us try to serialize the same. So LV JSON output. So now if I go to LV JSON output, can you see this data coming here? And now if I do an F8, can you see this output coming? And observe carefully. For the released date, I had passed it as released underscore DATE, right? For the movie rating, I had passed it as movie underscore rating. For the rating source, I had passed it as rating underscore source. So are you able to relate now? So if I scroll up, see this particular component, this component, and this. Can you relate this with this, the camel case? And why this is important is because when you are passing data to an API, suppose you are posting data, and these components are in camel case, right? So you need to ensure that the data that you are passing, you pass in that camel case format only. That is the reason why I explained you this. Now coming to the another important point, let me again trigger it and let me show you one thing. So in this LT final movie, okay, think that here this particular value, runtime is blank. So now tell me, in your final JSON output, you will have all the values with a blank value, or you will have only 1, 2, 3, 4 values which are having values. Can you tell me? Any clues? I will have all these 5 particular components in my JSON output structure, or I will have only 4 components. Can anyone tell me? Anyone? Ankit, Loganathan, Salman, JS. So JS told 4 values. Anyone who thinks that it will be 5 values? And why 4 values? Though I have made it blank, runtime should come, right, with a null value or a blank value. So now let me show you F8. Can you see? Since I made it blank, it gave me 4 values. Okay. Now let me add a twist to it. Cool. Let me do an F8, SPFLI. Now in LT final movie, I'll select this. I'll make this. And now tell me, now how many? So in the last time that I saw that the one which I made blank, it did not come in the final output, right? There were only 4 components. Now if I do an F8, can you see this as blank value coming? That is the reason why I had used this compress equals to ABAP as true. This ensures that if there is any blank value which is getting passed, because of some reason, that doesn't get displayed with a blank value, that will be compressed. Is it clear, guys? Okay, one more thing. Here I passed LT final movie 1, right? What if I do like this, data ls final and here if I pass ls final MOV, what will happen? So Ankit, what will happen? JS, what will happen? Salman, what will happen? Do you expect any output change? Or do you expect it to not work? What will happen? Just to analyze this, data is type data. So it does not depend whether you are passing an internal table or anything else. So if I just do an F8, can you see this? There is no impact. Okay, now another important point. Here I am doing a send call. So here I am doing a make a request, ask for response. Okay, here I am doing a send call here. In this send, when I am trying to make a request, okay, so how do you know? Example, let's go back to the postman. When I'm making a request, okay, first make a request, then only get a response, right? So when I'm making a request, this is a get call, or when I'm making a request, this is a put call, or that can be a post call or patch or a delete call, okay. Now here in this code, do you see anywhere I specified how to differentiate? We need to differentiate, right? Whether it's the method is a post call or a put call or a get call. For a get call, even if I did not mention it out, it understood that it's a get call by default, right? But what about the other concept? So then in that case, suppose if you want to change it, so you need to set that method exclusively. How do you do that? So here, when you are sending the request, okay, and then here, can you see here if HTTP underscore entity, then from this interface can scroll down, see here a set method, Okay, 1 second. Call method hello HTTP request, then here use set method. Okay, and for this now you pass this export, and here into this one, here this particular, how will you get? So what you can do is hello underscore HTTP, then after that request, then after that set method, then inside this I need to pass the method as get method, right? So for this get method hello underscore HTTP, then again request, then use the interface if underscore HTTP underscore entity, and then set header field. Can you see here? Set the header field, or rather than set the header field, I want to set it to CO underscore. Here you will find request method get or post. Can you see here? So for the method get, even if you don't specify, it will work, but for the method post you need to specify this as a method post. This is for setting the now once you have set the method to post, remember what I had talked about? Here in the header you need to pass that value, right? Authorization and that other value. Here also, example in OMDB, here, yeah. Authorization and this one particular, okay. How do you set this? So then in that case again hello underscore HTTP request, and then set method, okay. And now this, sorry, not set method, interface, and here then you set the header field. Set the header field. Now can you see name and value? So here if you compare with this one, name is authorization, value is bearer, and so this you concatenate into some variable and you pass it that particular value here. So in this way you are going to set the header fields, this particular header field, key and value. Is it clear, guys? So for this post, this additional activities needs to be done. Is it clear, guys? This particular two steps, if you want to call the method post and if you want to set the header fields. Another important thing is that in terms here, if you see For update, you are passing this body. So quickly tell me now that you understand JSON and all. This you need to concatenate it into a single particular structure or table length or whatever it is. So suppose if you want to pass this like what we were doing here, you need to concatenate this with open braces and a closed braces and all these components within double quotes, then a colon and then value. Similarly, comma, then double quotes, then the component name, colon, then value. Remember that string will always be within double quotes, as in this one. This particular JSON types will play important role. If any string you are passing, that will always be within double quotes. If you even compare the same, can you see here? Always pass it within double quotes. Any numbers or boolean true or false, and numbers as the number values, and null as null. And in case of line types, as we talked about arrays or any objects as we saw in terms of structures, accordingly you need to manipulate that. So you need to create this by concatenating the same, and then you need to pass this as a kind of a set data. So once you set data, so example, here so hello underscore HTTP request can you see this set C data? Use this set C data and pass the value here, that concatenated JSON string here. Understood, guys? So first of all, set the method to post, set the header fields, set the C data, then you make the request, and then you ask for the response. Is it clear, guys? Ankit, so what is the doubt? You did not understand. Simple. This is the JSON that I am passing, like while doing a post call or a put call or a patch call or whatever, right? This JSON you need to create using concatenation concept. The same JSON exactly in the same format. The component name ID should be within double quotes. This name should be within double quotes. Email should be within double quotes. All these components. Similarly here also, number. This, as you understood the JSON types, number should be without quotes. Any string should be with quotes. Once you have prepared this JSON, this will be into a variable, right? This entire concatenation will be into a variable, right? So once you have this concatenation, then here set the method to post. In case of any header field, set the header fields. And now for this request, you are sending a body also, right? Here for this put or post, I am sending a body also. This body will come through hello HTTP request set C data and then export whatever concatenation you want to pass. Understood now, Ankit? And let me show you one other important thing regarding that SSL peer certificate. So SM59 setup I tried to do. So if you see here, my SAP GUI screen is visible, right? So HTTP connections to external server. This is the one, suppose. Okay. So for here, if you do a connection test, so this is the problem that we are getting. This is another one problem. One was SSL certificate issue, and another problem is this connection refused. This all needs to be sorted by your basis team. And this is what I was talking about. Rather than create by URL, remember, create by URL here. This one, create by URL. You can go ahead and use the destination also. So if you want to use the destination, the only thing is that this destination needs to be connecting properly. And the other issue I'll also show you. See the same certificate issue. So these are the two kind of issue which comes up, which you can easily cross-check in case if your basis team has set up the destination. Ask them the destination. Go ahead to SM59 under external connections to ABAP system. HTTP connections to external server. Try to test your destination. If you get these two kind of issues, get back to them. Tell that the certificate trust and the establishment has not been done properly and we are not able to interact with the API. Tell them to get this fixed up. That's why I showed you these two kind of error also. And from the code perspective also show you how you get those errors. Yes, Ankit, you can connect only HTTP and not HTTPS. But one more important point is that all the secured REST APIs will be HTTPS only and not HTTP. This year, from demo perspective, I have used a HTTP API. Remember, initially when I had made this HTTPS, what was the issue coming? So if I make it HTTPS, now see what will happen. You will be getting that message again. So if I execute on this, okay, 1 second, let me. So let me do an F8 now. Can you see there is no output coming obviously? And this was the message. Remember, SSL PS certificate untrusted. And as I told you, Ankit, most of the cases it will be HTTPS only. All are secured ones, not HTTP. Here, because for demo representation and for training purpose, I use this HTTP one. Otherwise, all will be HTTPS only, and the certificate setup and all needs to be done by your basis team so that the firewall is able to connect to the incoming responses from the external APIs, and you are able to get the response and utilize ahead in your code in case if the need so arises. And that's why I showed you all the different possibilities of errors also which you can expect. And another important point which I talked about was proxy here. Remember that proxy will also come into picture. In case if app server has got some firewall to connect to the external APIs, it may need an proxy. Please ask your basis team that if proxies are required, then pass those two proxy port and the IP so that you are able to connect ahead. Is it clear? So guys, I hope so you enjoyed the session and understood the different complications, the mapping issues. And Ankit, here, remember yesterday, this one, without doing a declaration like this, now Ankit, what you can try is type reference to data, and while getting the data from deserialize, get this into a type reference to data because this is type data, right? And then use the concept of the dynamic internal table and all, which you did on the last class. Then you will get the data. The only challenge is then it becomes very complex, but this becomes an easy way out. Whatever you need, you just declare that and move ahead. But yes, obviously you can give it a try. Type reference to data get the data in then allocate the memory to that, and then use the same dynamic internal table and RTTS and RTTI concept to get the data to get the different component values, and then assign component to get the values and then build this internal table. But if you see here how easy this becomes to go from this approach, right? So Ankit, now you understood the complication that it becomes if you use that. But yeah, in some cases, suppose now if my requirement was that I just need to validate two particular values. So example, I just need to validate the ratings and the runtime which I'm getting. If the ratings is not as per what I have in my some of my source data here on-prem, I will send a response back that the data which I am getting is not proper, please rectify the data. So then in that case, you do not need to do all the declaration, use the dynamic concept, get only those values and send the response back. Now you understood that point, Ankit? Rahul, that's why I just talked about now. If you want to send the ABAP to JSON data back, for this I talked about the post method and all, and this JSON string and this serialize concept. Understood, Rahul? Yes, we did internal table only, no, right, JS. Initially, I had not passed this work area, I had passed this internal table only. That internal table was directly converted into a JSON. What you can do, no? So example, here, let me make this as, here I pass LT final mob 1, right? What you do, let me not comment this out. Here I'll pass LT final mov, activate the code, and now put a breakpoint here. First of all, let me check one thing. I have made it HTTP or not. So I'll execute the same now. Now here LT final mov is having how many data? Okay, I did not. Okay, I changed it later. 1 second. Yeah. So this is one data, right? Now insert row from selection. So let me call the API or Avengers. Okay, so let me pass the Avengers. And release date as 4th May 2012. Runtime as 143 minutes. IMDb rating as 8.0 out of 10. Okay. So now if you see here, there are two data, right? So now if I do an F7, F6 LV JSON data, and now if I do an F8, now did you understand JS? There are two records, and how this data is coming. Just take the same, go here, put it here, clear it out, put it here. Can you see the internal table? Two records, and this is what you passed, right? Jace, is it clear now? Did you enjoy the fun, guys, today? So we did Avengers and we did Thor the Hammer. Yeah, Ankit, tell me.
Kabir, actually we are using the method that construct by URL for establishing a connection. But then why are we getting error? Because we are not going through our RFC destination.
So what happened? So if you are not going by RFC destination, see exam, okay. Here also, if I go here, no, ultimately the URL is pointed out here. So whether you go via destination or whether you go via URL, ultimately the URL will be called. Even in the destination also, indirectly it calls the URL only. When it calls the URL, it looks for the certificate trust to be established between your app server and the external system, that a handshake is there, so that a peer certificate trust is set up so that it can go and make a successful request, do a handshake, get a successful response and get the data back. In case if there is no successful handshake between the two, either it's a connection refused or either it's a certificate untrusted, you are bound to get the same issue, irrespective of whether you call a create by URL or a create by destination. Understood?
Yes, and one more thing, that you are using the CL demo class, but it is not recommended to use this in the production environment. So if we want to show the logs, then how can we show this?
Nothing. I just showed you from an output perspective. Logically, after this, what will be the requirement? This is in your JSON output, right? So basically, this JSON output is what? If you see here, if I do an F8, this JSON output is of type string, yes or no? Tell me.
Yes.
So after you get that JSON output, this is your concatenated string, yes or no? This is what I was talking about, right? Remember, just a few minutes back, I was talking about this concatenation only, yes or no? If you go here, go to the body, this is what I was talking about, right? So if I just take this example, okay, and go here, go to the body, go to raw, go to JSON and paste it. Can you see here? This is what I was talking about, right? Yes or no? So
yes.
This JSON, once you got it here and you come back here, can't you pass it here, set C data?
Yes.
Understood now how the linkage is?
Yes.
Now you pass the data and then you ask for the response, whether it was a 201 or some error came.
Actually, Kabir, I am saying that when we need to show the logs, because when we show the logs to the user, he is not interested in that table format or what. He just needs what was passed to that, what we got from the response. So without using this method, can we show the logs in this same format?
No, so whether that log was successful or not, until and unless you get the response, how it is successful. So you need to get the response and get it back.
Actually, let me explain it. If I want to display the output in the JSON format only, can we show it without this JSON, CL demo class method?
One is JSON format you can store only as a string. Then in the table, that type has to be have string. But if you want to show that JSON output, logically that JSON output should not be showed to anyone. That JSON is so if you want to, what you can do, break it up into ABAP format and show them the records. For your demo purpose, what is the JSON output which was coming? I was using this demo class. This demo class is obviously not to be used. Show them in your ABAP format what is the data that was sent. They want to see the logs only, right? Why will an end user be worried about how did the data go, right? That is from a technical development point of view.
conflicts, at the time of conflicts, the API owner asks for the corrector format, like what we have sent exactly.
Then you take it from the debugger mode and send it to them, or from the API. Example, you have created an auditor service as an API. Okay, here this one which I called, where did it go? This one. Here, if I convert this to a JSON format, this is the JSON format data. Can you see here?
Yes.
You can send it to them and they can cross check.
And if Kabir, we are getting the JSON format in stringified JSON, then how to deal with that?
Stringified I have not encountered across. Always you will get it in a string format.
Means
JSON.
because, yes, we are getting in JSON format, but if the requirement is that we can pass
the standard APIs which you get will never do such kind of a scenarios. The standard APIs are very authentic. They will clearly give you the data in exactly the format which you just saw today. This formats only the data will come. The standard APIs are like that only. Tell the other teams also to prepare their data in this particular proper data in this formats only.
Okay. Otherwise,
this is the standard authentic format.
Means like we can deny it. There is no.
Yeah, you can tell them no, because the standard. Even if you see the standard SAP Cloud APIs also, they will give the data in this format. Even whether they give a header, multiple line items, I showed you one scenario also. There also the data will come in this format only. If you see this example, this one, and clear this out, maximum data they will give like this. Here also it comes in this format. It can be a very big JSON, obviously. It can have single structure inside multiple table lines, or a table line, multiple lines of the same, then structure. But this always it will be in a structure internal table format only, which will be a kind of a character data get C data.
Kabir, like from where can we learn about this case, like camel case and all the other cases that are present there?
Camel case, whatever I told is sufficient. You do not need to know apart the concept that I told you. That is more than sufficient. Like for camel case, you just use this concept. Or okay, for that I have given a reference link here. This is a very useful link for deserialize and serialize.
Okay, and can you please test this, Kabir, if this is working, because I tested it and it was not opening.
No, this is I've given you the snapshot. You need to type it out.
Okay.
I've given you the snapshot. Okay, in the, where it will work, see, I have just given you the link directly. So if you click here, 1 second. Example here. So why it does not work for you is because you get the PDF based format. So if you click here, see, it directly opens like this. Okay. Or if you go here, if you click here, I understood why does not work for you. See, if it opens like this, it will open up. But when you get you get the PDF converted format.
No, Kabir, my doubt is sorted. Actually, this link was given in DC realization method class. And other thing I was trying to open it, it was not open.
Okay, maybe what I can do is, 1 second. I put it here, you can take it up.
Sure.
I did not know whether it went or not. Did it go? Just check once.
Yes, it came as an image.
Okay, it came as an image. Okay. 1 second. Fine then. Stop sharing, stop recording. 1 second, let me stop the recording.